listen to my sultry voice. Listen to it. Okay. We're getting ready to start. We're getting ready. We're getting ready. And hello, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. We do it once a week. Once a week it happens. And this is the day of the week that we do it. Not too much to talk about this week, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I'm never not honest with you. But yeah, not a ton of news stories, so it's gonna be a shorter episode, I think. So let's just get into it. First up, it looks like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be 2 hours and 6 minutes. We got the official runtime. And I've seen some people being like, oh, that's too short for the movie. It needs to be 2 hours and 30 minutes or something. And I think that's a pretty silly perspective to have because we haven't seen the movie. You know, it's possible we watch it and we're like, yeah, it needed the extra 30 minutes. Or maybe we watch it and we're like, oof, that kind of dragged. You could have shaved off 30 minutes. I mean, it's possible. Like, now, granted, am I surprised that it's this short? A little, just because, you know, with all the multiverse shenaniganery that's going on here, it seemed like maybe it would just have a lot of content packed into it, but I don't know. I'm not like, this doesn't worry me at all. Like, if they feel like it needs to be 2 hours and 6 minutes, then, you know, if Sam Raimi feels like that's the length that it needs to be, then it's probably what it should be. I don't know. Of course, we will only be able to judge once we actually watch it. Okay, next up, we have a bit of a story here that I personally find a little frustrating. So, we've talked a lot on this show about Daredevil and, you know, also the other Marvel Netflix shows and, you know, their canonicity within the MCU. Like, we know that there is a Daredevil / Matt Murdock in the MCU proper. Like, and when I say in the MCU, I don't mean in the MCU multiverse. I mean in the actual universe that we've been following in the MCU. We know that there is a Daredevil / Matt Murdock, and he's being played by Charlie Cox. We know that there's a Wilson Fisk / Kingpin, and he's being played by Vincent D'Onofrio. The question, however, has been, are these the exact same iterations of these characters that we saw in the Marvel Netflix shows, thus making those shows actually canon to the MCU, or are these variants of those characters? We still have not gotten a clear answer on this. And it seemed when I initially ran this story that, oh, maybe we do have a clear answer. So I'll take this. I took this out of CBR. So we'll just read it. So, and you guys to set it up on Marvel.com or whatever. They have these like biographies for all the different characters where you can find, it seems, pretty much any character that's ever been in a Marvel anything. Like, they have a biography there. But for characters that, and this is at least just from what I've seen, if there are some exceptions to this, please let me know. From what I've seen, only for people that are in the MCU do they have on-screen character biographies. So, like, if you look up Iron Man, you're going to see, you know, just a general biography of the character. But you can also see his on-screen biography, which will show his biography in the MCU. Now, from what I can tell, it's only MCU stuff, and there are on-screen character biographies for the Marvel Netflix show characters. You know, Matt Murdock, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. So that's interesting. I mean, that right there, and you can just go to Marvel.com and you can verify this for yourself. That does kind of insinuate that, oh, I mean, yeah, maybe they are in the MCU. But on top of that, let's read this over here from CBR. Towards the bottom of the biography, this is Daredevil's biography, The second to last paragraph summarizes the ending of the show's final season, discussing the funeral for Father Lantom and Murdoch making amends with his friends, Franklin Foggy Nelson and Karen Page. Spoiler alert, I guess, for Daredevil. However, another paragraph has been added to summarize his brief appearance towards the beginning of No Way Home. So, right there, on the Daredevil biography, we see just the show summarized, right? The events of the show summarized with his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home added to the end of it. Well, whoopity-doo-dah-day, look at that. We got official confirmation that Daredevil and all the other Marvel Netflix shows, they're canon, they're officially canon, they're in the MCU. Not so fast. Because now they've taken out that last paragraph. That last paragraph is no longer there. Now, there are two explanations here. Either A, the Marvel Netflix shows aren't canon and Daredevil isn't canon, like the show, isn't canon to the MCU. And that was just the guy who was making it. He did an oopsie. Maybe he just kind of assumed that they were canon and he just did an oopsie and he added that in there, right? That's not the most unbelievable thing because it's not like these characters' biographies are this big, massive thing. Like, it's just a little added on thing to the Marvel website. So I honestly couldn't see that being the case. The other possibility is that, well, maybe Daredevil is canon and the other Marvel Netflix shows are canon, but Marvel Studios just didn't want to announce that yet. Like, they didn't want to reveal that yet. That's also possible. Honestly, at this point, I'm leaning to them being canon. And the main thing that's nudging me in that direction is what I brought up at the beginning. Why? Why would you make that, or why would you only have MCU superheroes and characters having these biographies, these on-screen character bios, and the Marvel Netflix shows? Because Morbius just came out, right? You'd think, hey, one of our characters just came out, let's give him a character biography. No character biography for Morbius. Granted, maybe Marvel Studios, maybe they saw that movie early and they were like, we don't want to associate ourselves with this. Maybe that's the case. But even when you look at Venom, people like Venom, right? Like, maybe me and some other critics or whatever don't like Venom, but audiences really like Venom. No character biography for Venom. No character biography for any of like the Fox X-Men or Fox Marvel characters or movies. Those just aren't a thing. It's only the Netflix shows, at least from what I've been able to tell. Obviously, there are a lot of characters. I haven't looked into all of them, so please let me know if there are some exceptions. But that right there, that little nugget of evidence, that makes me think that, I think they are canon. I think we're going to get that reveal soon. Or maybe I'm grasping at straws. That's also possible. But that's my stamp. That's my prediction. So we'll see what comes from that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think that they're canon or whatever, or are they not? Let us find out soon, hopefully. All right, next up, Miss Marvel, the show. It got a PG rating, right? It's I guess I haven't double checked this, but I guess all the other Disney Plus shows and the movies as well, they've all been PG-13, and Miss Marvel, at least from what I took people at face value. I didn't double check this, but it appears that Miss Marvel is going to be the first MCU property to have a PG rating, and I've seen some people disappointed by this. I mean, I'm not too surprised. Like, I wouldn't have been like, oh, what? If Miss Marvel got a PG-13 rated, but I'm also not, like, disappointed that it's PG. Just because, even judging from the trailers, it's clearly a show that's aimed at kids, right? Like, younger kids than maybe other Marvel shows have been. And I'm not, and yeah, like, that's just kind of what the show is. So, I'm not too distraught by this. I don't, and by the way, I don't think that the quality of this show is going to be dependent on PG-13. You know what else was PG? The Incredibles, right? That's probably, it's not a comic book property, but that's like one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. So it's like they can absolutely make a good Miss Marvel show and keep it PG. I'm not bothered by this in the least. Like, if this is a good show or a bad show, it's not going to have been dependent on the writing, right? So, or it will be dependent on the writing, but it won't be dependent on the rating. If just in case there was any confusion there. Okay, next up, guys. I don't know about you, but I am kind of getting jaded by the concept of the shared cinematic universe. I just can we just have just franchises that are just my light fell. It's okay though, because I didn't pick it up as it was falling. But I got it now, so it's all good. That was a genuine scream. I don't even know why I screamed. I feel like I screamed after it fell. That was weird. Okay. But whatever. So what was I saying? I was going on something about shared cinematic universes. Oh yeah. I don't need everything to be a shared cinematic universe. And on the flip side of that, I really love the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies. I feel like they're really underrated. Like I just think they're so much fun. And I think he's great in the role. So I am mixed on the following news, so let's just get into it. It's coming from the Hollywood Reporter. Sherlock Holmes might be coming to television as the Warner Media-backed streamer is in early development of not one, but two scripted series based on the beloved detective stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Robert Downey Jr., who famously played the detective in the 2009 Guy Ritchie feature film and its 2011 sequel, is on board to exec produce both shows via his team Downey Banner. Lionel Wagram, who received a story credit on the first film and produced both, is also on board as an exec producer. A third movie in the franchise was in development but never moved beyond that stage. It's unclear if Downey will reprise his role as Sherlock, as both projects remain in the early development stages. So, there's a couple things to note here. First of all, I want to see more Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. And a streaming series could be interesting, But what shared universe? This isn't a franchise that needs a shared universe. Like I don't want to see the Watson spin-off show. I don't know. That's weird to me. Like I really just want a Sherlock Holmes 3. Like I say that a streaming show could be interesting, but it's like I don't need a 9-hour Sherlock Holmes thing. I'd be fine with just a 2-hour movie that I can just go to the theater and watch and then move on with my life, But either way, the other thing to note about that is that it's not necessarily confirmed that this is going to be the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes. It might be. I would even say that it's probable that it will be. But it might not be. Like, this could just be like a reboot of sorts. Or, I mean, it's... Sherlock is like royalty free, so I don't even know if you would call it a reboot necessarily. But maybe Robert Downey Jr.'s production company is just producing, and this is just a new take. So, I don't know. I like Sherlock Holmes in general, and if this is more Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, on that front, I'll definitely be happy to see him back. But also if it's a new version of the character, I also will just be inherently interested in that. Like an HBO Max rendition of that character, I'm gonna be interested in that. Don't need it to be a shared cinematic universe or whatever, but we'll have to see how that all plays out. So yeah, interesting news. For now, we shall move on. Okay, so now let's talk about Ezra Miller, why don't we? It's coming from Screen Rant. Following Ezra's recent arrest in Hawaii, the Flash movie star's DCEU future is reportedly in jeopardy after Warner Brothers and DC Films held an emergency meeting. Due to the actor's arrest, Warner Brothers is reportedly hitting pause on any future appearances by the actor in the DCEU. This involves any cameos and development on a potential sequel to The Flash, a decision that doesn't have to be made for at least a year. So, geez. Hang on one second. I gotta deal with something. There was a spider. I saw the spider just like crawling on the wall next to me, and I was like, do I just continue the show, just uninterrupted? Do I continue this show with knowing for a fact that there is a spider in the room with me? And I elected not to. I said, you know what? That's not a thing that I want to do. I do not want to know that there is a predator in the room with me. So I killed the spider. Anyways, Ezra Miller. Yeah, everybody loves talking about Ezra Miller, don't they? So yeah, if you don't know, Ezra Miller has been, just to summarize everything that he's done, about 2 years ago, I think, he choke slammed a woman in a bar. Then a few months ago, he made these like kind of bizarre social media posts where he was like calling for the death of a KKK organization. And then now, like a couple weeks ago, he went on this rampage in Hawaii where like two confirmed events are that he like ran up to a girl singing karaoke in a karaoke bar and tried to, take the microphone away from her. Now, granted, we'll cut him some slack on that one. We don't know we haven't heard audio of her karaoke, so maybe hers was really bad, in which case he might have been justified. But then after that, he assaulted a man playing darts. That probably wasn't justified. And then he also barged into a couple's room who was like giving him housing, right? Like they were letting him stay in their apartment. And then he barges into their room and he steals their things. He says that he's going to kill them. He calls the woman a slut. So, and then apparently he was also the source of, I think I read that there were like 10 other like events in Hawaii, but we don't really know the details of them. So either way, Ezra Miller clearly going through some shit. I don't know what exactly. It's not a good situation, obviously. And I've been saying, like, I don't think Warner Brothers can allow this guy to play Flash anymore at this point. I mean, it's not like this isn't just like he went through like one situation happened, right? Where like when you look at the Will Smith thing, yes, he slapped Chris Rock. That's very bad, not defensible. But like, this is like the one time that we've seen Will Smith act like that, right? Like, as long as he recognizes that. Yeah, you shouldn't assault people, and he, doesn't do that again in the future. I'm like, you can probably still make Will Smith movies, and he can still be in movies. At this point, this is a repeated behavior on Ezra Miller's part, and I'm like, I feel like Warner Brothers should cut ties with this guy. I mean, Jesus. But anyways, it seems like they're at least discussing it, which is, to be fair, a lot more than they've done in the past regarding Ezra's behavior, which is nothing. They've done nothing. I mean, this is insane. Like, we saw Ezra Miller, star of The Flash, getting his own spin-off movie, starring in Justice League. Well, no, this would have been before Justice League, but Ezra Miller, star of The Flash, getting his own spin-off movie. He choke slams a woman. This is on video. On video, he assaults a woman. Warner Brothers didn't do anything. They didn't even release like a press release stating, "Hey, choke slamming women is bad, and we don't we don't approve of what Ezra Miller did." They said nothing. Ezra Miller has not delivered any apologies or anything. He just choke slammed a woman. Literally nothing happened. Then he like threatens the KKK or something, and granted, it's the KKK. Pretty bad. If something were to happen to them, I probably wouldn't shed a tear, right? I mean, but you probably, Ezra Miller, star of The Flash, you probably shouldn't go around threatening to kill people. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like that's a thing you shouldn't do. And then, I mean, with everything that they've been doing in Hawaii, I mean, I don't know how you can keep on working with this guy. Now, we are, like, The Flash has already been shot. I mean, I think you consider recasting him and reshooting your movie. Like, I get it. That's going to be insanely expensive. Like, and so I totally understand them just going like, hey, you know what? Whatever. We're just going to put out the movie. It is what it is. And then we'll recast him later. I can understand that decision, right? But honestly, at this point, just with the PR, I think you consider reshooting it. Because, I mean, just think about it. Like, are they really going to put Ezra Miller on, like, a press tour? On, like, a press junket for this movie? Like, after everything that he's done. And by the way, Warner Brothers still hasn't made any statements about this. They have not made Ezra Miller come out and apologize about any of it. They've said nothing. So, are they really going to do this? Like, are they really going to just pretend none of this happened and just let Ezra Miller go on a press junket? Because, by the way, after he chokeslammed that lady, dude went on, like, DC Fandom and talked about The Flash. He did press for this movie after we saw him chokeslam a lady. And he just never addressed it. I think it's going to be a lot harder to do it now because this time people noticed. This time I saw a lot of people on social media going like, what? Wait, what? Ezra Miller did what? What is even happening? So I don't know what I don't understand why they're giving Ezra Miller such preferential treatment. Like just like I don't know. It's crazy. But yeah, what do you think they should do about this? I personally think that you consider reshooting the movie. I know how expensive it is, but if this Flash movie really is going to be like this huge almost reboot of your entire DC universe, I'm sorry. Like I'm sure Ezra Miller is good in the movie, but like you want your star of that movie to not be this problematic. Because I'm just saying, like, he could end up, taking the perception of your universe, your newly rebooted universe, before it even starts. I mean, I don't know. So I think you reconsider recasting and reshooting. But I can understand if they don't, because admittedly, it's going to be super expensive. And it's like, it's not my money I'm putting down. So I get it. I get them not doing that. But for sure, they have to recast this role. I'm sorry, but they just can't work with Ezra anymore. I don't know how you do that. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Enough of me ranting and raving. Next up, we have a leak for Echo. So this is coming from CBR. This is Echo, by the way, is the new show based off of the deaf lady from Hawkeye. You remember her? She had the metal leg or something. This is coming from CBR. A new leak seems to spoil the next Marvel Cinematic Universe appearance for Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk / Kingpin and Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock / Daredevil. The resume for costume designer Stacy Caballero lists not only Alaqua Cox, but also Daniel Forno and Cox under the listing for Echo, the Hawkeye spinoff that's headed to Disney+. So this is interesting. We knew that in Hawkeye it was revealed, of course, that Kingpin is Echo's like adopted uncle, I guess. And with the way that show ended, or I guess with the way that show was wrapping up, I was kind of starting to think, oh, okay, so this Echo show is going to be about Echo getting revenge on Kingpin or whatever. Then Hawkeye ended with her like shooting him in a really weird and not satisfying way, kind of making people, of course, question whether or not Kingpin was alive. Although, I mean, you don't kill Kingpin off like that, like when you just introduce him into the MCU. So I never actually thought he was dead, but that was obviously a question. But now this is kind of confirming that no, yeah, Kingpin is going to be an active part of that Echo show, and so will Charlie Cox's Daredevil, apparently, because that's also the other thing that a lot of people have been wondering. Like I've seen some people wondering, like, okay, Echo's a cool character and all, but it's like, really? You're giving her a spin-off show? Like, even after watching Daredevil or Hawkeye, I think a lot of people were like, really? Echo's getting a show? Like, is this what you're doing, Marvel? And yeah, my camera just went out. And honestly, after watching the show, I kind of felt similarly. I mean, I like the character quite a bit. Like, I thought she was pretty cool. But I like by the end of it, I was like, oh yeah, no, I totally watched a show of her getting revenge on Kingpin. Like, that sounds pretty compelling. But then the way they ended it off, like at the very end, I'm like, oh, well, this is just weird. But obviously we're getting it, and yeah, something this tells me that, oh yeah, I mean, we're probably going to get a lot of those same assumed storylines of Echo dealing with Wilson Fisk, and Daredevil's going to be involved. So I think that's all pretty cool. And yeah, obviously I was not pleased with the way that they handled Kingpin in Hawkeye. So all I ask for is that, please, for the love of everything that is good and holy, get better script writers for Echo. Please stop ruining Kingpin. Please don't ruin Matt Murdock. Because it's not even that like they wrote a bad Kingpin. It's that they are using Vincent D'Onofrio. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin in Daredevil is like the best comic book villain that Marvel has ever done. The way that they butchered him in Hawkeye is honestly baffling to me, and I really don't want them to do that to Matt Murdock / Daredevil too. That's why, like, seeing Matt Murdock in No Way Home, it was equal parts exciting but also concerning. So yeah, hopefully Echo's good, but yeah. Just please handle my babies properly, okay? That's all I ask for. That's all I ask. Okay, last story of the day. Sony has acknowledged Spider-Man 4. So this is a tweet. So the original tweet was from Discussing Film. It says, Sam Raimi on if he would return to direct another Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. Anything is possible. Really anything in the Marvel Universe. Any team-ups? I love Tobey. I love Kirsten Dunst. I think all things are possible. So that was Sam Raimi's response, which was interesting to note that, oh, he is, in fact, he would be interested in coming back for Spider-Man 4. And this is what Sony responds. I mean, this is weird, right? Like, Discussing Film, it's like it is a website, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an outlet, but it's also, I feel like in a lot of ways, kind of like a fan account in a lot of ways. It feels like it, at least. It's not a variety of a Hollywood Reporter. And then even then, I don't see like movie studios responding to even outlets like the Hollywood Reporter or Variety. Like, I don't see them subtweeting them, which is kind of interesting. Sony responds to this tweet and they say, Well, this has been fun for our mentions today. Crying and laughing emojis. Friendly reminder, we are just the social team. So, this is weird. This is really weird. And by the way, Sony did this with the Amazing Spider-Man 3 as well, right? Like the proposed third Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie, where I don't remember exactly what the tweet said, but it was like something about the Amazing Spider-Man 3. Or no, yeah, it was it was a Sony tweet talking about Peter 3, which is what they called him in No Way Home. And it was basically saying like, by the way, we heard your desire to watch an Amazing Spider-Man 3, but we're only the social media team and we don't make those decisions. That's a paraphrase, but we covered it last week. They also made a tweet like that where it's like, why are you addressing this? Why would you address like the possibility of a Spider-Man 4 or an Amazing Spider-Man 3? Because if you're not actually going to do it, you doing these little cute little teases is actually just really stupid. Don't do this. Don't tease people like this if you're not actually going to follow it up with something. And the thing is that when I saw The Amazing Spider-Man 3, I was kind of like, oh shoot, I'm actually maybe going to operate under the assumption that, yeah, maybe we are going to get a Spider-Man 3 at some point. Or an Amazing Spider-Man 3 at some point. Now that they've also addressed Spider-Man 4 in the same way, I don't know. Because I say that would be a really stupid thing to do. But then again, this is also the same company that made the after credit scenes for Morbius. So, I can't give them a ton of credit or benefit of the doubt. I think now, honestly, I think these might just be stupid tweets. I think that might be just what they are. Which is a shame because I actually wouldn't have minded to see an Amazing Spider-Man 3. But honestly, them addressing the possibility of a Spider-Man 4 now kind of makes me think, yeah, maybe none of these are going to be true. But then again, here's the thing. They're obviously starting their Spider-Man villain universe or whatever, right? They did Venom, now they did Morbius, and even though Morbius is being critically panned, and even though it's not going to make a ton of money, I think it made like $50 million in its opening weekend or something like that, and it's probably going to make its money back, and it's probably going to be financially viable. So, and the Venom movies also made a lot of money, so to be clear, Sony is actually, their Spider-Man universe, their Spunk, the Spider-Man universe, or Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, is off to a good start, at least financially. So, clearly they're going to keep going with it, and they've said that there is a Spider-Man in this universe. So, I do think that it's going to be either the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man that is the Spider-Man of this universe. So, I guess I shouldn't say that none of these movies are coming, but after the Amazing Spider-Man 3 tweet, I was kind of going like, oh, I actually do think that, I do think that Andrew Garfield is going to come back, and I do think he's probably going to be the Spider-Man of that universe, but at this point, I guess it could be either one of these. I'd personally prefer Andrew Garfield just because I think there's more story to tell with that character, and I just like Andrew Garfield more, but we'll see what could maybe also happen with this. So, what do you think about all of that? I feel like I just rambled. Maybe you don't even understand exactly what I'm talking about because I did a poor job of explaining all of it, but what do you think about just the potential of Sony going back and making more movies with their legacy Spider-Man characters, right? Like, is that something that you'd want to see, or do you maybe just want to see Sony introduce like a Miles Morales or something? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, so that's all the stories of the day. Now let's get into what I have been watching. So, first up, I watched Moon Knight, episode 2, and I'm loving this show so far. I think it's pretty fantastic, and episode 2 has just been continuing that streak. We kind of got, maybe, honestly, I guess maybe if I were to critique it a little bit, I feel like we maybe got too much information in this episode. Like, I feel like now we have like a decent understanding of Khonshu and of what Steven has been experiencing, what, Ethan Hawke's character has been about. So while I love this episode, there's not quite as much like mystique or mystery or intrigue as there was in the first one. So, but I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll they still have a lot of stuff left to reveal. But it is interesting that after watching this episode, I come out of it feeling like, oh, okay, I get what the show is now. So that's not inherently a bad thing. And so yeah, but then as far as some other stuff about it, we finally got to see the Mr. Knight suit in action, and can I just say, this Mr. Knight suit, it looks awesome. Like, it just is the coolest, maybe the coolest suit that we've ever seen in the MCU. Like, it's just so dope. It is a little weird. Now, I've kind of seen this confirmed on Twitter. I thought that Mr. Knight was going to be like a different personality altogether, but it seems, at least just judging from this episode, it seems like this is just going to be like maybe Stephen Grant's suit that he uses whenever he wants to be Moon Knight, which, could be interesting. But I think people, definitely like comic book readers, apparently Mr. Knight is kind of a detective persona of Moon Knight, and it's like an entirely other identity. And obviously that disappointed a lot of people. I don't know. I definitely liked him in like the way that it played out in the show. Like I thought Stephen Grant kind of trying his best to, to fight Khonshu, or not Khonshu, but the dog, the monster dog or whatever. I thought that was really fun and cute. But yeah, I know people, I guess, are disappointed that Mr. Knight isn't this badass. But I also do think that we can maybe see Steven develop and become more capable. But yeah, and then, of course, the other thing in this episode, we meet Layla, who is Mark Spector's wife, which is kind of crazy to think about. Which, by the way, just the thing I want to throw out there. The fact that Mark Spector has a wife and that he's led a life, like clearly a long life, kind of makes me feel like I think that Steven might be the alternate personality, and I think Mark Spector might be like the main guy. Like, I think Mark Spector might be who this guy is, and I think Steven is the personality that Mark developed. So I just wanted to throw that out there because, I mean, he has a wife. Clearly he's lived a life, right? And would he have been able to have lived this dual reality before Khonshu showed up and made him Moon Knight? I don't know. So, gonna be very interesting to see how this all plays out. I wonder if there's gonna be a reveal at some point of like Mark being like, "Oh no, it turns out I was the parasite all along," or whatever. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, Layla, she showed up. I think she's really cool. I really like the character so far. And yeah, I don't know. I just continue to really dig this show. I cannot wait for the next episode. All right, next up, I also watched the movie Fresh. This is a Hulu movie, and I don't know if I want to reveal exactly what it's about, but I don't know. I feel like this is a movie that people should just kind of go in and watch and not look into it too much. But basically, it stars Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan, and they get into a relationship with each other, and they develop a relationship, and it's pretty cute. I really like it, but yeah, there is some twists and turns and stuff that happens, and I don't necessarily want to reveal too much about it. So all I'll say is that I watched Fresh. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was amazing or anything, but it's a lot of fun. I will say that at least. So I'll check it out. Go check it out. I recommend it. Thumbs up. Next up, I watched The Haunting of Hill House as well. This is one of those shows that I've been watching over the past few weeks, I guess. And I kind of loved it. I know I'm extremely late to this show, but this is just when I got around to it, and it's quite good. So, I was going into it being like, oh yeah, this is a horror show that everybody was talking about, and I was expecting to get some. I was expecting japes and scares. But the interesting thing about this show is that it feels a lot more like a family drama first and foremost, that kind of has some scary moments in it, where it's like a show where like one of the storylines is a family member being addicted to drugs and being distanced from his family, and like that's the driving force of one of the storylines. And then, oh look, sometimes he sees a ghost. And it's like, okay. But the thing is that the family drama aspect of it is quite compelling. Like I'm actually like really into this. Like I'm compelled by this family, and I think it's just quite good. Like honestly, I wasn't like too scared by it. Not that it's bad, not that the horror is bad by any means, but I'm also just never really like, I'm never like truly scared by horror, to be honest. It's just not something that it's very hard to scare me in a horror movie. I'm just being real with you. So that's not to like downplay, because I do think the horror in this is pretty effective, but that wasn't like my main takeaway when I walked out of it. Like my main takeaway was, oh, that was a really compelling family drama. So take with that what you will. I really enjoyed The Haunting of Hill House, and I would recommend it. Well. That is the end of this week's episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. That was a pretty good episode, if I do say so myself. We dropped a light, we killed a spider. What other show does that happen? I ask you. What other show? But yeah, if you enjoyed watching this, please be sure to comment, like, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified whenever I upload.